I would love to talk about the merch collecting.
Oh, dude, I have a problem.
Okay, so there's a few things. I had someone in the Discord earlier ask some questions that I thought were interesting, like what's your holy grail of your merch, like one you'll never let go, and what's one piece of merch that's like escaped you, like you never ended up getting it, that like you wish you could have had.
Okay, so I have a couple right now. Okay, so check this out. I'm about to turn the light on. You're gonna see some stuff that's crazy. So I this piece of merch was like my holy grail for a while. It had escaped me for years and years and years and years and years.
Okay, a bit of both.
My friend Frank Finelli, he used to sing in that band, The World We Knew. He sells and buys merch as well, and he does like vintage merch as well. Like he does like I don't know how to explain it. He does like resale and whatever, but sometimes he'll come across deathcore stuff and he'll be like,
I figured it was more like Harley Davidson shirts and band merch.
Stuff like that. Like he has like Nirvana shirts and Metallica stuff and whatever. But sometimes he's like, I have deathcore stuff or I have metalcore stuff, and sometimes he'll go, Kyle, like he'll hit me up because he knows that I look for it, and he'll be like, hey. And the way that he looks at it is very interesting because he's like, I toured with these bands and I don't have the same connection that you do because you were listening to it in high school and I was touring with them. So it's like there's like a disconnect in that sense, like where he's like, I owned that stuff a million times over and I don't give a shit. I don't know. It's like, it's kind of like when I tour with
seen
bands.
That shirt on the merch rack like fucking 90 days in a row. He's
right.
chill.
He doesn't care. Yeah, exactly. So there's stuff that he comes across every now and then, and he had hit me up, and I had just gotten home from tour. We had done a tour with Emure. And he TMs Emure and does merch for Emure. So he was like, I saw him was with Emure, yeah. So he was like, he buys and sells while on tour. I do the same thing. I buy, sell, trade, all that stuff. And he was like, he texted me one day, and this was after we got home from that tour, and he's like, hey. And it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? Because like automatically I'm gonna think it's bad. And he goes, you still up? And I said, yeah. And he was like, so I bought a few boxes of merch from some dude on tour, and and it's been at my house for 2 months, and I just got home. And I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, I saw something in here, and I remember you bringing it up to me at one point, but I don't know. He goes, I have good news and bad news. And I said, okay. And he goes, I'm not going to list it yet. I just want to make sure you want it if that's it. And I go, okay, what's the bad news? And he goes, okay, bad news is it's a medium, which I can fit a medium now. I lost like a shitload of weight. And plus, like, if it's a medium, I can pretty much fit into it. I usually wear large, but I was like, if it's a bigger medium, I could probably wear it. And he goes, okay, here's the good news. And he sends me a picture of it. And I'm like, holy shit, I've been looking for that hoodie for probably about 10 to 15 years. And I've never seen anyone else have it. I've only seen it. It's not even on Google Images anymore. It's gone. Like, it's like kind of like how all the old like indie merch now, like listings, they take them down. So you can't see them even on Google. So I was like, I've never even seen that. I was like, he lives in Orlando. So I was like, yo, I'll come out there. And he sends me a couple other images and he's like, here's this too. Like, do you want this? And I was like, yes. So I went out there and I got this hoodie. This is one of them. This is one of the crazy ones. So it's a Salt the Wound.
Oh shit!
And it's got the green.
The big ass print. Yes.
Come at me with everything you've got. So that's that one. So that's that one. And then I have another one that's in a bin because some bands I have like so many of the designs. I'll have a full tote of said band. I have a tote of Salt the Wound stuff that's like it's got like 50 plus designs, but I have like all the designs. And there was one that I was missing for the longest time. And that was a hoodie that was, I even messaged, cause I know some of the guys in that played in that band, which is crazy. Cause that was one of my favorite bands back in the day. And it has the devil on the back, and he's like fucking a head. And on the hood, it says Salt the Wound. And on the front, giant letters, it says, eat my And I'm like,
Wow.
I had only seen it on Google, and I was like, this hoodie does not exist. Like, I'm never gonna find this hoodie.
Like that no more.
And so I had talked. I remember I talked because my fiance is originally from Ohio, so she's like she was living like 40 minutes out of like Cleveland area, but I know a lot of people in Ohio just in general from touring. And I remember about a year or two ago, I was like, hey, Ohio friends on my Facebook. I was like, please, I need to find this hoodie. Like, I'm convinced it doesn't exist. I've never seen somebody have this. And then somebody hit me up and they were like, hey, I have that hoodie. What do you want for, or what, how much?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, holy shit. And so I offered him a pretty ridiculous number, and he took it. But I have that hoodie now, and I've never seen anybody have it. There's a couple others that I have, like what would be another one? I'll show you one right now that's also crazy.
How many totes do you have? How many shirts we talking here?
So
you got to have some sort of a tally.
To give you an idea, at my peak, I had about 1,300 shirts and about 500 hoodies.
Whoa. Shit, dude.
And now I have about 800 shirts, maybe 300 hoodies. I sold, dude. There was a point in time where I had garbage.
You were on D.
You could have a merch store by yourself.
Oh
easily.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I've thought about it, but it takes so long to take pictures of everything. It's like. Yeah. Like I've seen a couple of these distros pop up, and it's like the same idea. Like there's one called Meteor Gem, and then there's another one where they like, I don't know if they're like brick and mortar stores, but they do the same thing. And I'm like, I would rather just list it on a Facebook group or on Depop or whatever. But there was a point in time, this was years ago, there was a point in time where I had garbage bags full of stuff that was just like stuff I didn't want, and I was giving them to my friends. I was like, I have too much that it's just it's overwhelming. But right now at my house right now, I would say I probably have about 10 tubs here. I have 10 at my parents', and then I have about 30 in my storage unit.
It's like, it's more annoying to move the merch than it is to move the fridge.
Yes, it's annoying. It's annoying. Well, I have a full closet, and then I have a dresser right here, and then I have like a couple sets of drawers, but that's like all full of shit. Like,
okay, so I just had an idea. We're gonna have to do like a merch edition roundtable, and Kyle needs to be there. Like, we all show what we prefer as like merch or like rare things, and we're gonna need like an hour and a half just for you, basically.
Another one that's crazy.
Oh, that's sick.
Misericordium. Yeah, so that's another one that's a pretty old one. But like, yeah, pretty much any of those just crazy old bands. Like I ended up getting. Because
you got to think, right? Like Misericordium, like they don't have 5,000 shirts that exists, you know?
No,
like, they weren't around long enough. They didn't play enough shows. They barely toured. Like it was, you know, like it's like one of those things. Like some of these bands probably have like fucking 100 T-shirts out there.
Yeah. Yes. So like the big thing with me with like the whole collecting thing was that like I pretty much was like, you know, so the way I got into it was around like, I would say maybe like 2012-ish was when I like graduated high school, like all that stuff. And I was like, you know, I think I was basically like, was there a market or is there anywhere I can get any of these shirts that I can't get anymore, or the one that I have in a medium or one that I have in a small or whatever. And I was like, how do I get this stuff? Because I can't, some of them are all sold out on Merch Now or indie merch or whatever, or some of their big cartels are done. So I remember I went on Facebook and I was like, there's gotta be a way that people sell this stuff, right? So I went on Facebook and there was a group, and I think it was called Deathcore CDs and merch or something like that. It's not, I don't even think it's a group on Facebook anymore, but that was a group on Facebook. And I remember going on there, and this was even in like 2012. There was like Elysia shirts everywhere. There was Whitechapel, like Somatic Defilement. There's like Misericordium, all the shit around like Abacab, all this stuff. It was Deathcore merch group. That's what it was. And that was forever ago. And then I remember there was another group that was that group that became Metal and Core Collectors became that group. So they made another one, and that group came out of that. And so basically back then, that's when that's where everybody was like buying and selling all that stuff. And I remember I jumped on and I got a bunch of stuff then, and I was like, oh, I remember this shirt from high school, or I remember this one, or I remember this one that I never had. I want this one now. And I remember I was like, I started buying some of it, and then I was like, oh my God, I can't stop. And then, then Facebook or eBay, I started buying shit on eBay, and then Depop like started being an I remember it started being an app, and then I was like, oh, well, here's another one where I can buy stuff. And then it just ended up doing that, going that way. And then I just went fucking crazy for like years. And then I remember, I started, because what I set out to do, like to get back to your point about how there's only so many of whatever band or whatever, is my thought process, even in 2012 I was like, how many shirts have I thrown away, or how many shirts have I ruined personally?
That's
and I'm like,
my life.
I'm like,
what about all my shit? Yeah.
I'm like, what about all these other guys, or what about these people, or what are these people going to Goodwill or whatever? And I'm like, there's probably only
sleeves cut off first,
exactly,
and then turned into just cutting out the print, and then it's done. Like there's no reselling it. There's no, it's
so
gone.
I'm like, what if I can beat to the punch, get all the things that I want in large and XL, and before all this stuff gets ruined or it's gone to time or whatever and whatnot. And then another thing that I thought was really cool, or that I still think is really cool, is that like with some of the stuff, like for instance, that Salt the Wound hoodie, that green hoodie, I think Jake said they printed like 50 of them. Yeah, so it's like, that's one of them, you know what I mean? Or like that Misericordium shirt, like that was on a table in a VFW at one point. Like there's not a lot of them, you know what I mean? Like, or even when I was like, oh, hey, Demolisher, can I order a shirt on MySpace? You know what I mean? Like that was in a box in some dude's, you know what I mean? Like it's not a lot of them. So it's like, I think that's cool that there's like that piece of like history, that it's like a tangible piece. Like this is a piece of 15 years ago. You know what I mean? It's cool to think of it that way. And then also it's like a piece of the history, as far as like you document a lot of it through the bands and whatever. And it's like, that's another piece of it, is like the tangible piece. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like a CD,
especially
for example.
In today's world, especially in today's world where it's all streaming, it's all, all these things that are on the internet, we don't know when that stuff's going to go away. Like, like having something physical is always, to your point, like CDs too, right? Like it's one of those things, like if you have it, you can't take that away, right?
Oh yeah. And it's like one of those things where it's like I said, it's like some of this shit is either gone, or it's in somebody's basement, or it's in the possession of somebody like me who's like a collector of it, or it might even be in somebody's, like, for instance, like, dude, like you never know what's going to pop up, like the craziest shit. Like I remember even recently, like I just talking to people, like I made a post 6 months ago and I was like, hey everybody, cause I'm always looking for Salt the Wound stuff. Love that band, Abacab, stuff like that. Like my Grail collections would be probably, cause I have a ton from certain bands. It would be like Abacab, Elysia, Salt the Wound, Misericordium, Knights of the Abyss, different breed of killer. I have a couple there. I have a gold foil hoodie. I have a couple of shirts, but just like, I have a few where it's like I have them obviously like stacked off and stowed away, like in gems and cholera. We Are the End. I have a ton of We Are the End stuff. Catalepsy. Do you remember that band? Catalepsy.
Dude. Oh man. I was obsessed with Catalepsy.
Really?
Dude.
I
was obsessed with them, man.
I saw them
your
a lot.
flyer you posted. Like first time you saw them, whatever. The old
my
God.
Flyer. I saw them. quite a bit.
Early days, right? Because they changed over the years, but like the early, like the demo, and then they had like an EP that had like 2 demo songs on it, and then three songs.
Yeah,
like,
so it was
like Whispers and fucking. Oh, dude, it was so good.
It was the one with the blue cover. It was like Mother Mary.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
before
then,
Inequity.
Yep, and then it was Godless, I think, with like the upside down cross. And
exactly.
Then they put
Godless,
out Bleed.
Trust, Whispers. Those were like the
11-16. Yep. I remember that stuff. Yeah. No, they used to play Orlando. They used to play Melbourne and my town, like at this place called the JC's. It was like literally like the size of like my fucking garage, but they used to play this venue. And I remember them and like a couple other bands, but they were sick. But yeah, I have a lot of stuff that's like that. It's like kind of like I guess you'd say like sentimental. Like a lot of the bands that like I first discovered are very sentimental to me, like Salt the Wound, We Are the End.
It's because it doesn't. It's not just like, oh, it's this band and stuff like it brings you back. Like it brings you back in time and how you felt at that moment and stuff like that. And I feel like it's probably a big part of why this revival thing is so special to all of us. It's because we grew up with those moments. Sometimes I just see, like, as I'm doing my videos, sometimes I see, like, I hear a song that it's been a long time that I heard. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm 15 for a few minutes, then life reminds me that I'm not. But it's, I think it's awesome, and I feel like merch can do the exact same thing. Really, sometimes I see a shirt, I see something, I'm like, boom, brings you back instantly. And it is
especially some of that iconic stuff, right? Like you're talking about the gold foils, like, you know, the get fucked shirts, you know, there's like certain like designs specifically I find too that are so iconic to that time, like outside of being rare or not. There's
a hoodie that I really want since forever. And I talked to the guy and he told me that he thinks he could make it happen. Is the annotation of an Upsy, the green hoodie that, like, with Welcome to the Slut Shitty, like he had green stuff on the sleeves and like with the big green logo, like always been obsessed by it. It's so sick. And when I talked to him, because when I did the video, we talked, and he's like, I could send you a shirt. And I acted cool. I was like, oh, okay, that'd be great. But inside I was like, it would be Christmas. Like I would pay a lot for that, actually. So I can definitely relate. You know, someone outside, maybe you say you have a collection like that and they're like, what? But like, I get it. It's a massive collection that you have, though. Like, it's not something I hear all the time, but still, a collection is a collection, and there's more involved. It's not just like, oh, that shirt is cool. Like, there's a value to
you're
each,
choosing your shirts, right? Yeah, exactly.
There's a decision behind it and stuff like that. And so I get it. You could compare it with like video games sometimes. And I have like retro stuff here with like Nintendo 64, PS1.
I love and video games too. Yeah, I love that stuff.
And it brings you back too. So it's one of those things where if at some point in your life you were collecting something or you can relate, then you get it, right?
Oh, yeah. I think like you said, it's strange that it's like also it's not just sentimentality that's like just individual to you. It's like whenever there's somebody else that's like remembers it, they're like, oh, you got that thing. It's cool. I love it. I think it's awesome. Like I had like a huge collection, and then I downsized a lot because it was like I trimmed the fat off, and I was like, okay, well, I want to only keep the stuff that I think is like really, really awesome, and like the gems and like that and whatever. So I ended up doing that, and that took a couple of years, but it's just like, I think it's awesome. I like to catalog it and keep it, and like obviously I like to wear it, and I think there's a couple people that have some pretty big collections as well. Like